Our next speaker used to lead strategic realignment of KUKA systems. We saw them just on the slide before. And managed the autonomous mobile robotics division, so the AMR division. And he was instrumental in building the business from the ground up and really establishing it. And he's played a very key role in advancing autonomous mobile robotics and is now shaping the next generation of industrial automation. Please welcome on stage, since August of this year, the CEO of KUKA Robotics, Jürgens. Welcome on stage.
Who gave you all that information?
You see.
Some things were new to me. You were mentioning we have too many robot manufacturers, right? We can work on that, definitely. Hey, where's this? Oh, I forgot that one. By the way, I got pretty clear instructions here. What you might not see is there's a lot of tape on the floor. So if I make strange movements, then it's because I don't want to walk on lava here. KUKA, and I think most of you, we find ourselves in a pretty volatile environment, right? We have the US shield themselves right now. We don't really have compelling answers on their terrorists, on Trump's terrorists, right? We have, funny thing I say it, we have increasing competition from Asia, from China, entering markets in Europe and parts of Americas. And they pull this low price level, their local price level, to the markets, to the European markets and to parts of the Americas. And then the European Union, they don't really have good answers on subsidized goods and services and on tariffs because they are not united. And that is a problem for us. That might be a problem for most of you also. But that's also a problem for our customers and your customers. Obviously, it is a good thing if a company like BYD, if they invest outside of China, in Europe, because they are our customers, right? If line builders outside of China invest in Europe, in the Americas, because they are our customers. But that puts existing customers, important customers like German, European car manufacturers under pressure. And that again is a problem for us, for our competitors, because we are still very much depending on the appreciated business we have with them. And then on top, there are those guys here, they're new players to the market. There's software companies, that's robotics companies that have a software AI-based business model, platform-based business models, like Neura. Is David in that room here, by the way? Didn't see him, but so I'm on one of the lists. David from Neura. We have Boston Dynamics. I think his name is Atlas. So we are being squeezed right now from two sides. Competition from Asia, that's the world today, basically. That's our market today. And then new players on the market. That's basically the future. So that's a challenge that we are facing. And obviously, those are challenges. But that is also a big opportunity for all of us. On the one hand side, KUKA can be a great partner to you. We are number 2 in China. Right now, we aim to be number 1. And the competitiveness we gained in the Chinese market is really something that most of our competitors are missing. We believe if you want to compete in the world, you need to be competitive in China. And then, second thing, automation will always increase. Automation will always continue to be increasing. It's that continuous striving for progress, for improvement, that gives us a tailwind here. Also in numbers, the market is challenging us quite a bit. That's the figures for the rest of the world without China, the unit sales development. And since the COVID peak, the post-COVID peak, the market is on a decline for us. And it will probably be flat at max next year. So we could start asking ourselves, why should we stay in this market? Why should we stay in this business? Does that make sense? I think that's the wrong question to ask. And I'm going to ask you a question. How many smartphones were sold or leased in 2024? Just a rough guess. Worldwide, globally. Just a rough guess. Order of magnitude. 1 billion gets pretty... 1.2. 1.2 billion. So I asked that question earlier today, and the answer was 10 billion. Yeah. So I brought 2 today. So now let's imagine only 1% of those smartphone consumers, smartphone users, would use robots. It could be household robots. Could be service robots taking care of the elderly at home, for example, or at homes. Could be non-industrial robots at work, for example, refilling supermarket shelves. Let's imagine that 1%, so 12 million, basically. I'm going to get out of the way so you can take that picture. Is reflected by this circle. That's how the robotics market in 2024 looks like in comparison. So the question we should ask ourselves is not, why should we stay in this market, in this little red ocean? The question is, how can we initiate, how can we found, how can we start this blue ocean of autonomous robotics? And obviously, there's a technology gap to close. We need to make our robots see. We need to make them feel. And then we need to make them autonomous, make them make their own decisions. And that is with physical AI. KUKA, in the past 125 years, we have reinvented ourselves again and again. But the last time, by the way, do you know the story with the trash wagon? Most of you, right? We did trash wagons. And the last time we really made a difference was when we introduced industrial robots to the market, and that was back in the 70s. And that technology, the performance of that technology, mechatronics-based robotics, mechatronics-based automation, the technology performance has reached maturity, has reached the ceiling. And I don't know exactly how our business model, how your business models exactly are going to look like in the future. But one thing is for sure, if you want to stay alive in the next couple of years, it better be software and AI-based, that business model. I think we have a window of opportunity right now to establish that market, that blue ocean of autonomous robotics, of robotics that are intent-based. And we need to do 2 things to be part of it, to be fast enough before this window is closing. One thing is, from our point of view, we need to collaborate to make those robots more intelligent, to make them autonomous, because I think no one in this room can do it by its own. So we need to collaborate on doing this. We need to find a way together to make them see. That's quite easy. Our cars can see already, right? They can keep you in the lane. But making them feel, that's already a hard part. I think it's not solved, not reliably solved yet. And then the last thing is make them autonomous, make them make their own decisions. That only goes through collaboration. And the second part here, we need, as established players, that is something that people tend to forget. We need to remain competitive in the existing market, in the red ocean that we are in, because that's the only one we have right now. That's the one we make money with. And also here, we need to collaborate to be more competitive, to get that money flow. So this window of opportunity, that's a window for all of us. So I really encourage us, let's seize it. Today, the automation is pretty much deterministic and synchronized. And tomorrow, I truly believe it will be autonomous, that's the robot, and it will be more orchestrated. And in the first step, what we do is, also in KUKA, we invest a lot. We make our robots see, we make them feel, and then we make them make their own decisions, and that is with physical AI. The second step is to turn that herd of robots, let's say or let's say today, robots are sheep, basically. So we want to turn them into shepherds, right? Make them more smart. That's the first step. Then the second step is to make that herd of robots orchestrate themselves for flexible production. Each one of the robots in that herd of robots being an agent, one or more agents. And that herd of robots, that needs to be orchestrated. And that second part then is agentic AI. And obviously the first part, making the robot smarter, is the harder part to solve, but it also bears the bigger potential, because the smarter the robot, the closer we can get the robots to humans and evade a little bit the industrial-dominated market to a more human-centric market. And here I think in this room we pretty much have the bits and pieces together to make that vision come alive. But again, I think it only goes through collaboration. We cannot do it on our own, and I think no one on you can do it on your own either. Also the big players, the new, let's say not big players really, but the new players, they cannot do it without partnership. So we are really about to have that technology at hand to make our robots more autonomous, to make them see, make them feel, to make a vision come alive, to bring robots closer to humans, and make them part of our everyday life. For the third time in a row, we are about to disrupt the market for automation and robotics. I said it in the 70s, it was industrial robots. Then 2012, roughly, it were cobots. We did not really do a good job there. And then now is the chance to create that blue ocean of autonomous robotics. So let us be the ones to make our robots see, feel, make them make their own decisions. Let's make our robots easier to commission. And in this way, make products like white goods, like cars, more affordable. Let's bring the robots closer to humans to take over exhausting, heavy tasks. So that is something that goes through collaboration, that requires a lot of investment, and most of all, calculated risk. But we take that risk because we are convinced. We are convinced that we can change the rules of the game here. In Augsburg at KUKA, we have what we call the heart of robotics. Pretty sure some of my colleagues, some of the other robot manufacturers, they claim that for themselves too. When we say heart of robotics, we mean three specific things. That is the system dynamics. So we know how to develop robots for them to behave the way they are supposed to behave. Fast, precisely, reliably. That's the operating system. We know how to make mechanics come alive. And the third thing, that's production. Let's not forget about production. We build the best robots in the world here. What we need to do now is work together, again, to make them see, make them feel, and then in a second step, to make them make their own decisions. We are convinced that this market, that this blue ocean, is big enough for all of us. So I invite you for an open discussion, for initiating that collaboration, because that market is the future, and it's orders of magnitude larger than the red ocean we are in today. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Great insights. By the way, KUKA's Heartbeats for Robotics.
That's for free, right?
Yes, that's for free. That comes with the attendance and being on stage here.
No, just saying because we're under cost pressure. Right?
At Siemens in Amberg, we go for the claim heartbeat of automation.
Oh, okay.
So everybody's heart beats for something, for sure. You own the robotics in here. You were talking, and I like that, with the sheeps. What about if sheeps do not turn into angels, but into wolves? Talking about autonomous robotics.
Oh, you mean that, I saw that episode, what's it called again, where those dogs, they went crazy? You're talking about that one, right? Robots becoming dangerous? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm pretty sure the European Union is going to find some regulation to prevent that from happening.
Okay. And before I go ahead with silly questions, I'm going to give it to the crowd here to raise your hands to go for questions from the audience. Thanks.
Thanks for a great keynote. I have a question about this new generation of robots. Where do you see the applications for this? Like specifically in industry, where do you see use cases where this can have a tangible impact?
Yeah. It's different kinds of industries. Healthcare, for example. Hope not many of you have to go to a hospital so often, but if you go there, you see people doing tasks that they are overqualified for, right? All the staff that should be taking care of patients, they serve food. They change cloth, by the way, for example, right? So that could be a case. Getting robots to the patient's rooms, serving food, taking food, bringing medicine, for example. That's just an example. But I think the bigger potential is to make them part of our everyday life. Of course, that will take some time, definitely, to be a buddy, basically, take care of your family at home, of the elderly. That is something where pilot projects are already going on, taking over some of those tasks. But I think that is really the big potential here. I've been with Patrick in Bologna 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had a keynote from the Chief Strategy Officer of Boston Dynamics. What's his name again?
Mark Hammond.
Yeah, there you go. And he was showing applications where some of his dogs, some of his humanoids, they were walking across buildings and checking pipes, for example, or through nuclear plants, checking on cracks, for example, doing some investigations. So those are applications. Key is really that robots are smart enough to make their own decisions. That's really key. If you need a human to decide for the robots what to do, then you won't be able to leverage that, right? So just I would recommend to, let's say, walk through the world with eyes open and imagine what robots could do that humans are doing right now, but that they are not supposed to do, that doesn't really create any value. I mean, that's the principle of automation, right?
Mm-hmm. Right behind you, Max.
Thank you for your presentation. I had just a small question. You're speaking about the competition, that you want to be number one in China, but how do you plan to do that, like with the Chinese brands who claim that they can do it like 40% cheaper than the traditional ones, or are you mainly talking about the new markets there?
No, IFR data. It's really industrial robot market. We are number 2 right now. We have the new ones behind us already. We are growing faster than the new ones. They claim to be 40% cheaper. I cannot prove whether that's right or wrong. Fact is, we are growing. We are close to being number 1 this year. Don't know if we can really make it this year. I think it's not only about cost. Again, I really don't know if they are 40% cheaper. I cannot answer that. The thing I can say is, of course, you need a competitive cost structure locally. But you also need to understand how the market works there, how you need to work with the customers, how to get the big projects, it's a volume game. You learn how to go calculated risk. That's what I mentioned. I give you an example. If a customer tells you, I'm going to give you 5,000 robots for this price, and you see right now, okay, that's a loss game. You would lose money on that order. And you could say, no, I'm not going to take it. That's option A. Option B is you take that order and you go all the way down your supply chain and reduce cost to make that order profitable. So yes, one part is the cost game, but on the other hand, it's customer relationships and the trust in your organization, in your suppliers, in your network to make that happen. And also think not short term, but long term. Again, it's a volume game, and it's not maybe profit in the first instance, but in the second project, in the third project. And I think that's how the market goes. So what we can learn on the one hand side, yes, efficiency, cost efficiency, that's part of it, but also to be bold in a market that is pretty much a volume game. So yes, we have many robot manufacturers, and right now the market is pretty much limited. So if you want to survive, you got to go for volume. That's it, I think.
Thank you.
There is one right there.
Front here.
There is more hands.
Thanks for your presentation. One short question. How do you plan to open your software stack to allow other manufacturers to provide AI solutions there?
That would be on an individual basis. Again, I think you cannot do that on your own, and we are currently figuring out how the setup can be, what our partners could be. Basically, we are working on that business model. I was mentioning that, right? We are not super sure how our business model is exactly going to look like, meaning on the cost side, who are your partners, what do we do on our own? But if we decide, or let's say, it's probably not a decision that only we have to take. Partnership is on eye level, right? So if two partners find each other, then we're going to find a solution to open that software, yeah? But we're not going to put it on a marketplace or something. That's not what we're planning to do.
Okay, thanks.
Any other hands? Let's change sides for once and then go back to the other side in the back. Exactly.
Thank you for the presentation. As we see, a lot of the use cases are centric to the manufacturing sector. So what do you think about the robots can be deployed for the construction fields, going forward? Because we have a lot of demands, the human resource demands in the construction fields. Is there any, the robot models design that can be deployed in the construction fields?
Well, construction, that's something very big, right? We do have robots in house building already, but that is repetitive house building. That's modular house building. You can see that on YouTube, you can see that on LinkedIn, but that is more serious production of houses, right? That's pretty simple. It's basically similar to a welding line for automotive, by the way. That's one aspect. Then you could 3D print houses. They can also use robots that we have today. It's not a complex task, basically. The complex thing is to have the site properly built up to 3D print a house. Then you have construction work on the interior, mobile robots driving around, drilling holes, for example, right? All this is already existing today. There is I think that's also our robots in a collaboration with Fisher. The drilling stuff and what's Dübel in English? Huh? Well, there you go. So there are multiple applications that are already available today. Are they super economic? Not all of them, some of them. But again, the smarter a robot, the more he sees, the more he or she is a robot, is a male or female? He or she.
Depends how it behaves.
He or she, yeah, exactly. So the wolf would be female, right? So the robot the more the robot perceives the environment, the more economic the application, right? Because the expensive part, let's take the interior application, it takes so much time to commission that system, to scan the environment, to compare the 3D data that we generated with the reality. So all this has to go away. So construction is basically a good example for more autonomous robots to be more economic in that application.
Thank you.
Great. We got one more question. Third row, back there.
I like wolves, by the way.
No worries, all good. I take it personal anyhow.
Yeah. Thank you for your great strategy slides. I liked your story a lot. What about your data strategy? So you need a lot of data when you want to transition to the blue ocean with AI. How do you convince your customers that they give you the data you need?
Where's our chief software and AI officer when you need him, right? Well, the bigger the customer, the harder to convince, right? But the more robots you deploy to non-automotive customers, the more openness there is for data. But before I start talking and not giving you a precise answer, we don't have a super convincing plan on this.
Maybe
I agree.
It's easier in China?
You mean legally or illegally?
Practically.
let me say it like this, we do have data in China.
Thank you so much.
Okay. What I really liked, Michael, is the positive spirit you bring into the topic of robotics. Because right now, everything, as you started with your slide set, is quite negative. Everybody fears that business is not running well, tariffs are killing us, and the market is not in our favor. So that's cool. But being on #1 position with a lot of budget in the back helps to be bold. Mm-hmm. How much research and development people do you have in percentage compared to the overall staff? Because the ideas you put on the table here were super cool. I'm not sure if the little ones also have the capability of kind of developing these crazy ideas.
Well, what you really need to make that come alive, that's $1 billion investment. We cannot do that. Foundational models for physical AI, no way we can do that. I don't even know if Midea, our mother company, could afford that. Really, it's billions, and there are only 2 or 3 companies in the world potentially that could really do that foundational model, right? So it doesn't really matter whether we have 100 people or 200 people in R&D. There will never be enough. We'll never be able to have enough people to build our own foundational model. No way. I would say we have above average R&D people. I think the important thing is that each partner in this needs to understand his or her role, and our role is, I think, to go. I mean it when I say it's this heart of robotics, with powerful partners that could provide a foundational model, but then get both together and make it in the end. The customers want a solution. They don't want a robot, right? They want a robot to do something, to fulfill something, and we're going to be the ones to make that come alive. So that is how I understand our job here. So I would say above average, globally between, I think, 300, 350 people in R&D, but that's not enough to develop physical AI. We need a partner for this, and we're working on that.
The secret is collaboration.
Yes.
And working together and deliver inspiring new ideas.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Really great. Well said.
Thank you.